Welcome to the TALKESHI podcast, episode 81. I can't believe that we've made it past 80. Hi everyone, I hope y'all are doing okay. Camera's here, mic's here, thank God. Let's push on. I hope you guys are doing okay, like I said. Today's episode, I want to talk about something serious. Here's the thing. I'm gonna sit up right. Oh, and before I even talk, I wanted to wear this because I wanted to wear this jacket for a while on the podcast. And not only that, but I'm also wearing green liner. I don't know what people dubbed, like makeup or fashion or things like that were like political in nature. I wouldn't even say this is political. This is just something I thought of in the moment because I genuinely wanted to wear this. But I feel like there was a moment where, I don't know if it was with the whole George Floyd thing or things like that people deemed makeup looks that were political in nature or had a political message to be like in bad taste. And I fully agree. I will say this is a little different because it's not only a bit of a coincidence, but it is something that I don't know how to explain, but I'm wearing green liner because I'm wearing the colors of the Palestinian flag, which are red, white, black, and green, in support of everything that's happening right now, which even that feels like out of touch. But at the same time, like, we are going to be talking about radicalization or just like political consciousness in a way, as just a person who doesn't consider themselves to be like, listen, I don't consider myself to be super politically adept or to have so much knowledge that I influence other people. But if I can like get the message out there that, something is wrong right now with the world, I will. And I don't know if you guys know the story of the watermelon in cuestión de the Palestinian culture, basically, or like especially Palestinian resistance. But they used the watermelon because I don't know if specifically there was like a law that they couldn't use their Palestinian flag, or just like in protests or things like that. But that message really resonated with me. They used the watermelon because it has those colors, right? So they use it as a sign of like, symbolizing basically the Palestinian flag. And that resonated with me as a Puerto Rican person. As a Puerto Rican person, I resonate a lot with, like, I was thinking about like if you're not in, or if you don't live in like an oppressed or colonized nation, I feel like you're really not gonna understand their plight, if I'm being honest. Like, that's just an opinion that I have. Maybe that's wrong, I don't know. But anyway, that did resonate with me because we Puerto Ricans couldn't use the flag. I feel like I should have come prepared and give y'all that fact in depth, but look it up. We couldn't use our own flag at the beginning of Americanization. Like, the flag was literally a sign of like that you wanted like independence, or like it was just like you would get detained or arrested if you used it. So, I thought that was something that I could do in solidarity at the very least. But it's nothing compared to like what so many people are doing right now, which is protesting and just talking nonstop about it, which is what I see it. And I'm like, I think we should do that, but yeah, it is very hot though. So I'm not wearing it because it is so incredibly hot in November in Puerto Rico. But today we are going to talk about a topic that is very interesting to me, especially as a person who recently was like, oh, I'm not gonna get political anymore. That's not even true. I'm always going to be aware of social issues. I'm always going to, it's always something that I'm gonna be, because I can't escape sexism. I can't escape the oppression of my country, so those things do matter to me, and I will never stop talking about those things. But I feel like, as a person on the internet and as a person who creates content on the internet, this topic in particular is interesting to me because I feel like sometimes as content creators or content consumers even, we kind of see social issues or things like that as like almost like a badge of honor in a way, right? Like oh, we got to be aware of like everything that's happening right now. It's important to be aware. It's important to be like socially conscious of everything. If you're not, then like, you know, like it's a whole identity that people claim on the internet. And a lot of us are just citizens, right? Like a lot of us maybe are aware of those things, but we don't like make it a part of our personality or you know. But to me, there was this one tweet that went viral recently that I found so interesting. It was I mean, it wasn't called, but it did go, "What radicalized you?" And that makes me think about a lot of instances or moments where I was brought into the kind of like social collective or consciousness of like, especially like learning about racism. And I don't want to like bring up just like one specific moment where I was radicalized in a way. I want to talk about a few, and I want to talk about what made me aware of, you know, so many other social issues that don't affect me. So I will bring that up, but I did ask it myself online on the TALKESHI Twitter. If you don't, you can follow me there. I post a lot of cool stuff on there. I don't know why I'm so hyper aware of myself right now. So if you see me be fidgety, that's why. But also, I guess this is a serious topic that I want to get into. So I already gave my thoughts on not the conflict, but the, you know, what's happening right now in the last episode. But, you know, I will get into it now, or at least you know. But I asked, what radicalized you? I literally had to stop for a moment because I had no internet for a second. And I couldn't load all the replies to the tweet that I posted. So let's read some tweets of some people. First off, being just a girl radicalized me. And this is not only so true. I mean, I feel like there are a lot of instances of sexism and stuff like that throughout life where you just realize that it has to be better than this, right? We should be treated better than this, right? Not only that, but Alondra also went to the same middle school that I went to that really changed me in a bad way. And I'll get to it in a bit. I think, this is another person, I think I was learning about the school to prison pipeline back in 9th grade, but what really got me over the end was George Floyd's murder in 2020. I think this was a breaking point for a lot of people. A lot of people really started to get conscious with this specific event, because I feel like we had reached a certain point in social media that literally, if it wasn't for social media, you know, like a lot of things would go by unnoticed, and a lot of people would not get justice. A lot of people would not be aware of what happens in a day-to-day. So I feel like social media reached a point, you know, with like the black squares and stuff like that. Like that specific event really is a case study for radicalization and just social awareness on the internet. La huelga de la UPR, this is another person. This one really, I heavily agree with this one. La huelga de la UPR del 2010 on TV. Ver cómo la policía le caía tanto a periodistas como a estudiantes sin piedad en el Capitolio y cuando se metieron al recinto para estudiar a estudiantes. Toda esa lucha y persecución por mantener la universidad accesible. I think, and I'll also talk about that because I was part of la huelga del 2017. So I would say that when you see how they demonize protesters and people defending the public institution or just the institution of education, and you see how much they attack innocent people because they're protesting, that really does cause a shift in your mindset. La guerra contra las drogas, I think, this is another person. La guerra contra las drogas, I definitely believe the war on drugs marks a very bold line between the rich and the poor. I think decriminalization is a very heavy topic that relies on that classism, and I think that can definitely, especially if you have familiares that suffer from addiction or things like that, that can really open your eyes to that. My best friend posted that when the police killed a relative of theirs, I can't even imagine how much that changes your mindset to, what are we doing here? Why is society going after our most vulnerable, right? And the last one I want to add is Anya. Shout out to Anya, very heavy supporter of the pod. There's too many instances to count, but the one que me hizo darme cuenta que no importaba la circunstancia, encontrarían la manera de sexualizar a la mujer, fue cuando unos compañeros en la high hicieron comentarios about my boobs cuando estábamos visitando a una compañera que había habían coincidentally operado de unas masas benignas en los senos. Yeah, I would agree that would radicalize me, or that would change me. That was a very big part of my upbringing. I want to talk now about what radicalized me. From a very early age, and I want to say that I might do like a side podcast, a sex podcast maybe. That would be audio only because it just would be much simpler to just like upload and stuff. But it is one that I would love to do, and I would talk about my experiences being a young girl and coming into myself like sex wise. But growing up in middle school, like I said, I went through some things that really changed my perspective as to why I couldn't be a sexual person. I think a lot about sexual complexity. I think a lot about like why I can't be like the main character or just like a complete person who, you know, just lives their life and has complicated feelings about life and goes through shit, and also enjoy my sexuality. And that all came from things that I went through in middle school, where I just realized that I would not be treated the same as like the counterpart that also did things just like me. I remember I have a little bit of an apprehension to therapy, because in therapy I was slut shamed. I was made to feel like I couldn't be a sexual person. I'm not gonna get into it, but I was made to feel like I couldn't be a sexual person and also get good grades or be a good person. Like it was just like so separate, right? So that, in cuestión de sexism and things like that, that radicalized me. That made me feel like, no, as women, life has to be better than this, and we should definitely be treated not only by men better, but by women with a lot of internalized misogyny, because in Puerto Rico hay mucha internalized misogyny. At least that kind of stuff did make me go down a path of like, I want to be free, I want to be complete, and I also want to orgasm, and I want to live a life where I am sexually proud of myself, right? And there were a lot of like I've been through a lot of situations from like ever since then that have made me, you know, change my perspective, but that was definitely one of them. I would say because I feel like I could talk about sexism all day because I've personally experienced it, but things I haven't experienced specifically are racism. I haven't experienced homophobia, and I would say I'm a person who is aware of it. You know, I would say I'm a person that I try to be as aware of worldly struggles as much as I can, especially when it comes to Puerto Rico. I like to be aware of the oppression that we're under, especially because, especialmente puertorriqueño, we are not as aware as we should be. De verdad, I don't want to say this, but like the older population has been brainwashed to a point of like, we just really We beg to be colonized. It is something that I just have not heard of any other nation in the world feel or think. Aquí en Puerto Rico, we are so complicit in our own colonization that I think it is important to vote, first of all, to be aware, to speak out, to dar a entender que we can't let these things happen again. We can't let corrupt politicians fuck us over. We can't let, the United States fuck us over. We have to do something about that, right? So yo pienso que ser boricua es ser consciente de lo que pasamos a diario. Jesus Christ, it's very hot. Es que I remember a few episodes ago quejándome about it, but I was wearing like a long sleeve. Today I'm not, but it is so hot, especially because I didn't turn on the AC and let it heat up. Let it cool down. It's just... Anyway. But yeah, I feel like also as a feminist, as a person who considers herself a feminist, I want to be an intersectional feminist as much as I can, which means being aware of sexism that I wouldn't suffer. I wouldn't suffer racialized sexism, first of all, and that is something that we have to be aware because we don't suffer it the same. I don't suffer trans misogyny, and I have to be aware that that is something, I was talking about it the other day, of like cis women and trans women, like cis women have to stand up for trans women and our trans queer community, because like no one, like I can't imagine being on the side of like cis men. I'm on the side of trans women, to put it lightly, and if we see trans misogyny, we have to speak up about it. So I think it's important to get out of our own bubble and speak about those topics of racism and stuff like that. And honestly, I would say as a woman, like it does annoy me when there is like a serious topic and white women want to white woman it up and be like, oh, but it's kind of like the meme that I saw of like, these rockets are being sent by a woman. It's so great to be a part of history. Like, we can talk about how we want a female president this whole time, but like, what would it matter if she's gonna be as belligerent and as like, evil as the past presidents? It's not gonna matter. Identity politics is a whole other topic that I have a lot of opinions on, and that a lot of people are kind of not really aware of. But yeah, that's a topic for another day. For me, what made me very aware of racism, especially in the United States, because there's a lot of racism here as well, but Tumblr. I can't believe I have to say this, but Tumblr made me very aware of the plight of African Americans in the US, and how that is also, it affects, the racism in the US affects every person of color in the US, no matter how aware or unaware they are. I think specifically what happened to Trayvon Martin, and I think there was another instance in 2014 specifically that people were really talking. Trayvon Martin died in 2012, but I think there were a lot of instances around that time that people were really speaking out about it. They were protesting. There were, I think I am sweating so much that like I'm like feeling cold from the perspiration. That's crazy. Anyway, I think them talking about how unjust that was and how insanely evil that was really made me be aware of police brutality, of racism, of racial profiling, of things like that. And that did make me shift my perspective into, hey, like this is something we should be more aware of. In Puerto Rico, to this day, there is a lot of racism that I feel like a lot of people aren't really even aware of. And I could say like, oh yeah, like, in Puerto Rico, people are so aware of racism and supporting people of color in our communities and whatever. But that I would be speaking in my bubble, because in my bubble, there are a lot of people and colleagues and associates and mutuals and acquaintances that are aware of this racism, that are people of color, that are Black, that, suffer that racism. But outside of that, it is crazy to see how much, you know, how much racism there still is out there in the workforce, in our families where Puerto Rico dignifies itself in saying like, oh, we're a mix of 3 races y qué sé yo, como que no, aquí, like, tú puedes ser una mamá blanca y tener un hijo negro and be very racist towards them, o tener familiares negro, or, you know, it's kind of crazy how racist we can be to our own family members because of that myth. So yeah, I think I think college really did radicalize me, especially in the queer sense. I met a lot of queer people. I met a lot of trans people in college. A lot of them were my friends. A lot of them were my just classmates. And I think that made me very aware to their struggles, to their plights, to, you know, how difficult it was in their households, how difficult it was in society in general to be queer. And I think when it comes to that, that did radicalize me. And I feel like around this time, gay marriage had become legal in the US in 2015. And that was a big time for me where I was like really aware. And a lot of my friends were also coming out as queer. A lot of my closest friends were queer women, were queer femmes, you know, so I think I was just very aware of that in the moment. Listen, at the beginning of this season, I was like, I don't want to speak on those topics. I don't know. I had like a shift where I was like, I want to be in my own lane and not be aware of, not be aware, because I'm always aware. I love to be informed. I would actually recommend, I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, are you serious? But if you want to educate yourself on certain topics, I would actually recommend watching Hassan Piker. Yes, I have a huge crush on him. Don't mention it. But you know what's crazy? Like I always think about how men can have like a celebrity crush and like that's it. And they're not into like what they actually do. They're not fans of like their music or their movies or whatever. But women, like, we love our celebrity crushes unconditionally. Like, we love their personalities as well. I don't know if I like Hassan's personality, but definitely his work. I am a fan of his work, and I would recommend that if you are starting to, especially like he has a lot of videos on the topic of what's happening right now, but even before, the way that I would be informed on certain topics was literally through Hassan. And I think he brings a lot of interesting perspectives, a lot of nuanced perspectives as well. You would think that because he's a leftist, he mainly leans left, but I think he tries to take everything with a grain of salt and really educate people. He's a dumbass in a lot of aspects, but en cuestión de política, he is very, very intelligent, and he will take the time to explain things to his chatters, even though he's probably explained them like a billion times. So I would recommend you guys watch his videos if you don't have time to watch his Twitch, because I don't. I want to end the podcast just saying that, you know, no matter what I say, even though I want to keep the podcast as fun as possible, simply because that is my lane. That is what I know. I can't just stand here and educate you guys on topics that I don't know, but I will always try to bring awareness to these topics because I think it is important. And I think I can also do both. I can do episodes talking about something funny, but I can also bring awareness to something that is happening because, like, just like I tried to prove myself back when I went to therapy, we can be complete people. Try saying that 3 times fast. But we can be complete people in the sense that we can enjoy ourselves while also being aware and bringing attention to serious topics. So, you know, I hope that I do that. I hope I can bring light to these situations as much as possible, now and in the future. And I think it is, like, I want to end this for real saying it is important to be aware, because I feel like if we turn a blind eye to these types of situations, people literally die. And it hasn't been easy reading the news all these days. It hasn't been easy to know that this could have been stopped, that people and not only people, generations of Palestinians could have been saved, that no one had to die because of this. But here we are. And I think it is important to, in our own echo chambers, which hopefully at some point I talk about, but we might have a special guest to talk about that with. I hope that we try to make ourselves more human and help out as much as we can, even if we can't literally go somewhere, or just help as much as we can on the internet. And that's today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, but more than anything, I hope this brought at least most of my perspective on what it means to be radicalized on the internet, specifically, not like as a person off the internet, but someone who reads and shares stuff and content on the internet. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. I don't think there's an episode next week, but definitely next week there will be. So I will see you guys then. Have a good day, guys. Goodbye.